Today, our goal is to answer one question. Why do I feel like I'm losing my oldest friends, and how can I stop that from happening? It's a tough conversation to have with your friends, but I thought today would be the perfect opportunity to have that tough conversation with some of my oldest friends. So today I'm honored to be joined by my oldest friends, Brandon Martelli and Tanner Dyslin, as we talk about our relationship that has gone on from the time that we were 5 years old to the time now that we are all 23 and 24. This is an open and honest conversation about our relationship as friends. I hope it inspires you to do the same with some friends maybe you need to be reaching out to yourself. If you like the show, please follow along and leave a rating. It's the best way to grow the show. It allows me to have even more incredible conversations and bring on even more incredible guests. Without further ado, Brandon Martelli and Tanner Dyslin. When I was reflecting upon our friendship, the three of us, you guys are my oldest friends, my closest friends. And I was thinking about just how we actually went about meeting, which is kind of hard for me to reflect upon because it was so long ago. But what I remember about Tanner was he was the tallest kid in the class. And he was the one who just radiated the most confidence, which, of course, as a little second grader is not what was going through my head, but reflecting upon it is how I would describe it best. He was just the kind of kid that you would gravitate towards just naturally. He had just this aura about him. And Brandon, it's similar with you. It's just in a different kind of way. You were just always naturally the funniest. You were always the type of personality that everybody wanted to be around. You always had a smile on your face, and you were that guy for me, especially. And I think that's a good starting point for an intro. I never like doing tell me about yourself as the intro because it gets awkward and you don't know what to say. So that's how I viewed you in the beginning. How did you guys view me, if you can even remember? And don't make
That's
fun of my
exactly what I
teeth
was
too
gonna go
much
to.
because I know that's going to come up. Yeah, I know you.
That's what I was going to go to too. See, you could tell we're friends. We all have the same train of thought. But I'll go first on this because I actually remember I had met you in school, Tom, because we had both gone to Brookside, and Brandon from the other side of town went to the Crumpon from the other school. And what I remember us being friends before you even played baseball, and that's kind of where our friendship really grew in baseball. But I vividly remember trying to have a conversation with you and trying to convince you to try out for travel baseball because I think the first few years you didn't play.
Yep.
So I remember that. I remember that vividly, and I think when I thought of you, I just thought of someone who's on the shyer side. And like I said, I remember trying to convince you, and when you had told me that you were going to do it, I remember being really excited. And sure enough, you made the team, and then we played baseball together forever, and that's kind of what really cemented the friendship. So that's what I remember. I remember two things. I remember you being a little shy, and me trying to convince you to play
Yeah.
baseball.
All very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and teeth, and teeth,
You're
And
full,
teeth. Yeah.
and big teeth.
bro. But
We'll
okay,
insert a
yeah.
picture
But
for
so
the
I
for the
met you
visual.
through baseball, but we played in house first because your dad was our coach. It was like it was fourth grade. Well, I'm in fifth grade for me, but you were on the Cubs. Like we were the Cubs. Your dad was the coach, and that's where I met you, like before travel. And then I remember like you played excuse me, you played travel like that same summer was like the first year you tried out for like our team and made it. And then that's where we became friends. But like you were always just like the polite kid. Like you were always so polite and like kind of shy. But like you like I think it was really when our travel team started because like we all just like loved each other. So like we all just became like our if you remember like all the parties, it was literally like our birthday parties were just like our
Yeah.
baseball friends, and then like maybe one other person because like that was our friend group was just like us through baseball, and like you were just like you were the shy and play kid, but like we all got along because like our team was like family. That's where we really became friends. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, that's a very fair recollection, I would say. And I mean, we can go on forever about how we become friends, how we stay friends. And I don't think it would do anybody any justice. I mean, the listener, they can't appreciate it because they weren't there. It would be a waste of everyone's time, honestly. That's not the point for today. I intentionally didn't tell you guys what we are going to do for today because I wanted it to be more of an honest and open discussion. And I know I cheated because I'm the one who's coming up with the discussion. But it's a topic that a lot of people that I know now, especially in our 20s, are going through and they don't really know how to handle it. And it's the topic of they're growing up, they're moving to different cities, they're doing different things with their life. And those old friends who have always been there from the beginning aren't there anymore, physically and kind of figuratively in the sense that they don't have that same connection that they used to with their old friends. And there's kind of a mutual agreement that they don't want to keep it. And it's a big thing that I've heard a lot, and it's affecting a lot of my personal friends from college, from a lot of different aspects of life. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who aren't as vocal about that are struggling with the same kind of thing. And I thought it would be a really good topic for us to discuss today because we are the oldest of friends that I personally have. You guys are still a huge part of my life, even though I've moved a little bit away from Brandon and Tanner has moved very far away from the two of us. And, I think in any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's your friendship, whether it's your parent, whoever, it's good to discuss what's working in the relationship and what's not working in the relationship and how you can improve upon it. And, this is the type of conversation that you would probably have in private most times. But I thought it would be interesting to put it out there for everyone else to see, just a real open and honest conversation between some really good friends, to see if anybody can connect with it and maybe it inspires somebody to reach out to one of their old friends about what's not going right. And that might be a little bit hard for us to do because we're not very serious with each other all the time, but I think it would be fun to give it a shot. So if you guys are cool with that, you ready to roll? I have some prompts, I guess, just some overall general topics to go in for today. But I don't know, any questions before we get started?
Let's go. Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's ride. One of the biggest things that you read about when you hear people ask the question, why am I losing my friends, is it's a part of maturing. It's a part of getting older. It's natural. And I don't necessarily believe that, where sure, it could be a part of your growth that you change and now you have to go walk down your own path and you have to go do your own thing. And sometimes that means losing friends. But I don't think that's necessarily the mature thing to do. I think the real mature thing is a parent with your friends. Your friends are the ones who are mature and they accept your changes. And they're the ones who are going to stick with you no matter what's going on in your life. They're there to be your biggest cheerleader in the best of times. And they're there to console you when things are not going right, no matter what's going on in your life. And you guys have certainly been there through a lot of changes that have happened through college, now in this post-grad world, as we try to figure out what the heck we are doing. And you guys have always been that support system for me, where there's been a lot of changes from who I am. I'm not necessarily that little shy kid anymore. Heck, we're doing this. I have a lot of opinions and we don't agree on all of our opinions. I mean, I'm more religious than you guys are and I'm more open about it. I don't try to shove it down your throat, but you guys have never questioned me on that. You guys have never questioned me when it comes to wanting to do something kind of outlandish, like making a podcast and trying to be creative. You guys have always been really supportive. You guys have always been really supportive when I pursue other endeavors outside of what our core is sports, just having a good time with each other. And I don't think I tell you guys enough how appreciative I am that you guys have always been there to support me through all of our changes. And one of my shortcomings as a friend is I don't think I'm always there to support you guys through your changes. I think I get caught up a lot of times in what I'm doing, and I'm not there to be that same kind of cheerleader or same kind of support system when you guys are doing your own thing. So I'm just interested to hear if you kind of agree with that. First and foremost, it's more vulnerable, I guess, to say that I think I have this shortcoming, but I'm interested to hear if it's just in my head or if you think, that's actually an area to improve upon.
I mean, I'd say that last comment about you feeling like you have shortcomings as a friend. I would say I disagree with. I mean, right now to this day, I am 100% comfortable, and I know for a fact that if I texted you saying, "Hey, man, like I really need to talk," or I gave you a call, you'd answer the phone right away. And like I know for a fact that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
I just have been fortunate enough where in semi-recent memory, I haven't necessarily needed a time where I needed to lean on that support system as much, and I'm thankful for that. But I disagree with that because I know for a fact I'm 100% confident that if I call on you or I call on Brandon, you guys will be there right away. I know that for a fact. And regarding your first point about talking about maturing and losing friends, I understand what you're saying. I think my response to that would be just that I think like the natural, I'll call it like the shedding of friends is is inevitable, right? Because
Yeah.
you're not like you had mentioned the issue of location, right? You're just not around that much. You also, as you get older, your day gets busier, right? You're not in school, and even what you do when you are busy, like when you're a kid, you're busy at school where you are with your friends. Like now that we're post grads, we're busy with work where we're not necessarily around our friends as much. Like it's just natural and inevitable to have a few, and you really got to take a look inward and realize, which friends are a part of your life and which ones do you want to make the effort to talk to. And that's something that I did. I know I wouldn't say I like lost friends. Oh, well, it kind of did, but like I don't want to look at it that negatively. But there was definitely a narrowing of friends where I people that I would call on if I needed assistance or I needed support, and that narrowed a little bit, but it also strengthened. Right? It's like one of those where because there's less of them, each one is stronger individually. So I think it's relatively natural. I understand it. I mean, just effort is something that can stop that problem of shedding friends, but I think that is a relatively natural process and something that's going to be inevitable.
Well, basically what Tanner said, we're all in different places now too. Like Tanner's in Iowa, and you're in the city most of the time. I'm still in Yorktown, but like I feel, but like your last point, like that you don't feel like you're around for like our big accomplishments. Like I don't think I think you are the support that you need, that like we need. Like I know I'm not like the most open with you, and you maybe think that you're not like I'm just not open in general. But like when we hang out and we fool around, like when we like joke around, have fun, like, and then we get to the point where we start talking serious, but like I'm still joking about it. Like that's like I'm very comfortable with you talking
Yeah.
about it. Like I'm not, I don't stay away from the topics. Like I will talk to you about it, and like between like it's probably just you two right now that I would talk to about anything that happened in my life. Like I feel comfortable sharing it with you, and just because like you're away, we don't talk, 3 times a week or however much as we used to when we were in high school or even start of college. It doesn't mean that like I view you as like less of a friend. Like you're still like my best friend, even though you're not around anymore as much.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. That makes complete sense. I There's a necessary growth that takes place when you're alone and when you're separated from friends. And if we were doing the same thing that we did when we were 17, we're not growing. I mean, as much as I love like sitting on the roof of the pizzeria that we all used to work at and just kind of having fun, or just going to McDonald's and stuff, like there's a time and a place for that. If we were still doing that at 23, 24, I mean, something might be a little bit off. And when I talk about putting in effort, and it kind of ties into what Brandon just said with vulnerability, where I'm not as vulnerable with you guys as I am with like my parents and everything like that. I try to be, but I'm still pretty reserved. One of those things that I should be more vulnerable about is I'm just in my own head a lot of the time, and I'm really bad at trying to be like a perfectionist and try to perfectly balance my life where I'm focusing on my work and everything that I need to do to progress in that field, where I have this field of I don't know, self improvement that I want to go down, my career, my hobby here that I want to make into a career. And I'm trying to balance that with paying enough attention to the people that I really care about. And sometimes I feel like that falls by the wayside. That's what I talk about with effort. And I understand that we're not in each other's lives every day. It's not like we're in school, we can all get together in the lunchroom. But I don't know. It's never a great feeling for me when I think about how there's that like cliche, like, oh, you pick up with your best friends and it's like you left off on the same page and you can go like a month without talking. That's so true. Absolutely. But it never gives me a good feeling when I look down my phone and I see like the last time I texted one of you guys is like 3 weeks ago or like 4 weeks ago. And I just look at it and I'm like, is that me just lacking effort, or is it me like I had something that I had to do and I was just focused in for a little bit? And it's kind of, do I want to apologize? Do I need to apologize? And it's good just to have this part of the conversation. I think where I wanted to go next is that part that Tanner brought up, where you have this shedding of friends that's very natural. And I think when you get older, you start to realize the difference between like what's a buddy and what's a friend. And to me, a buddy is someone who is there in one aspect of your life. Like we had a lot of baseball buddies. We had a lot of just school buddies in general. I don't know, any other outside hobby that you guys have. Those are your buddies. They're there in that one aspect of your life, and they're awesome, and you want to have them around like all the time. They're there for that really fun time in your life, but they're not there in every single aspect of your life. And they're not seeing you in a holistic view. They see one side of you, and they don't really care to see the other side of you. And once that falls off the table, that kind of gets confused with losing friends in my eyes, where we think that a lot of these people are our friends, but in reality, I think the definition of a true friend goes a little bit deeper than that. I think that's where we differ. Is you see me in a holistic view, you know way too much about me, and you still appreciate me for my flaws, and you still find reasons to like me for some reason. I'm just kidding. But I think that's the difference between being a friend and being a buddy. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that topic as well. Do you think it really was that some friends, you know, you just go your own separate ways and then that's how it is? Or do you think it's the same kind of idea where some are buddies, some may be friends?
I mean, I think like as we, as everybody moves on, you lose, you like friends do just come and go in a way. Like it is kind of cliche. It's like friends come and go, but sometimes it just gets hard with like Tanner said earlier, like between work and especially when you're in college. Like you got some people need to work. Like I had to work during college to pay for college, so like I had very little free time. And your other friends move on, then they get new jobs, and then they meet new people. And it's not a matter of like all my friends from high school. Like I'm sure if I saw them, I would, we would hang out. It's like, oh, like just like the old times, but it'll never be, I won't ever get as personal, like tell them like, everything about my life as I would like with you two. If I was out somewhere and, one of my friends from high school come with me, I would be like, oh, that's like my friend from high school. But it's like, I don't really know much about him because, I haven't talked to him in forever because he's been, away or whatever. And we just haven't, stayed close. So I think it is kind of natural that you do lose friends because nobody stays in the same place forever because that would be pretty boring if you stay in the same place, had like the same everything stayed the same, you don't make new friends and you don't lose your friends. Like it's kind of like you're not growing in a way. If that makes any sense to you guys.
Yeah, if I can, yeah, I'll jump in here, Tom. Like, I definitely think there's something to that, right? And it gets a little bit difficult, right? Because you define these groups like, your buddy is someone that's only there in one aspect of your life. Well, when you're growing up, you're in high school, the the lines of what aspect of your life is, they tend to blur between like sports and school and like people you hang out with. Like that's because you're all in the same spot, because you're going to the same school, playing the same sports, all of that, they're all connected, right? So it's kind of hard to necessarily delineate as only one aspect of your life. But I definitely agree that there's levels to it, right? I mean, the idea of a true friend. And I mean, when I thought about, just as you guys were talking about who I would have considered a true friend in high school, I think that everyone that I'd say was a true friend is someone I still talk to today. So in that sentiment, Tom, yeah, I do think that while we talk about this natural shedding, maybe it's more of this buddy or someone who out of just sheer how often you're together in school, in sports, in clubs, in whatever, at work, like part-time high school work, any of that you're just naturally going to develop a relationship. And while that may be a relationship out of convenience and not necessarily one that will stand the test of being far apart, which like ours has. So I definitely do think you're onto something there, Tom. I'm not sure it's as black and white as that because of just the nature of friendship in high school. But yeah, I totally think that's just the natural levels to friendship and when you're in high school.
Yeah, nothing's ever black and white in my opinion. It's always some sort of gray, even though the world tries to make everything black and white and kind of put a dividing line right down the middle. It's never the case. And that was a great point that you just ended off with there. That sometimes we have these relationships that are just a result of proximity. There's so many studies that are done on the youngest kids when they first show up at school, and you are so much more likely to become friends with the kid who sits directly next to you than the kid that gets put in the back of the classroom. And we were fortunate that we had proximity in a lot of areas of our life inside and outside the classroom, which just kind of multiplies that effect. And it was something that scared me when we were going off to college, that proximity was going to be far less, obviously. And I never liked the idea when we were going through college that we were going through all these experiences separate, and I wouldn't be there for some of these really transformative moments in everyone's life where things are going to start to change. You're going to start discovering more about who you are personally. And when you come back together, sure, it's like you never left off, like we talked about before, but you kind of are meeting a new person a little bit, where somebody who has had months worth of experiences completely without you, and you're never going to be able to spend all this time hearing about all these experiences, but you're going to see the little nuances and the little changes that take place in that person. And if you're a true friend, if you're a mature friend, you're going to be the type of person who's either going to really appreciate those changes and really love to see the growth, or if those changes are something that you just completely don't agree with, you're going to challenge your friend and you're going to tell them, what are you doing? Why are you going down this road? And I think the difference between a true friend and a buddy is a buddy really wouldn't care what kind of changes you showed up with, as long as you're showing up to the pickup softball game like you're supposed to, and that's where you guys are buddies, like, job done. And it's always that part that I love about the two of you is you've accepted all of my changes, and you've also challenged me on some changes that you didn't agree with. I know Brandon, especially when I told you about this idea that I was going to start doing this show, I mean, you've always been supportive, but you're also one of my biggest supporters in the best way possible, where you're telling me genuine tips about how to take this seriously. And if I'm going to take this seriously, how I need to be acting, how I need to be professional. And when I'm not being professional, you call me out on it. And same thing with you, Tanner. If I'm acting in a way that is not of character, you're going to call me out on it. You're like, why are you acting that way? And that's something that I always admired about the two of you, is that you always shoot straight. You're not just going to accept my presence as our friendship. You're always holding me to a higher standard. And that's the type of friends that I want to have around in my life completely, is someone who holds me to a certain standard and someone who's going to challenge me to be the best version of myself. And I hope that I do that for the two of you. So I don't know your opinion on that. If you like being challenged in that sense of the word, where you appreciate when someone's vocal about maybe a change that you're making that you thought might be in the right direction, but someone else is going to call you out for it, differing opinions. And that kind of support system, where I'm a big fan of supporting someone in the way that you really promote them and you don't make it about yourself. So if you guys have an accomplishment, I'm celebrating your accomplishment. I'm not saying, oh, this reminds me of that time in the 8th grade where I hit the walk-off home run myself, and this is just a really good time for all of us. No, it's about supporting the person individually. And I hope that I can do that for the both of you. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to think about this topic of supporting your friend and challenging your friend, because I think both of those are really key to a true friendship.
Yeah, I mean, well, I remember sitting in your backyard when I remember you texting me, excuse me, saying like, "Hey, like I have this like proposition almost for you, or like this idea. I want to get your thoughts on it because you know that I had the background in the media." So I remember sitting in your backyard, you telling me like, "Hey, man, like, so I'm gonna buy a laptop. I'm gonna start this podcast." And like you've tried a couple things before, but like, and I remember sitting like with your finance TikToks, your, just like whatever TikToks, like, but I always knew like you were never trying to do it to like blow up or get famous. You were doing it because you wanted to do it, like you wanted to help people more than anything else. But I remember like you were saying like about being your biggest critic. I was like, I remember then a couple weeks later you had the demo ready, and I listened to that demo a couple times, and it was like 2 minutes long, and we probably sat in your basement for like 30, 45 minutes maybe, just like going back and forth on like, hey, you should change your intro to this, like you shouldn't say this, you should present yourself a certain way. And like I wouldn't, if it was anybody else really, like for the most part I would help them, but I know what you can be, and I know, and I hold you to a higher standard because like I've seen you succeed in so many random things where I know you can be better, and I know that you care about this. So if you care about this, then I care about this just as much as you do, even if I don't do all the work that you do, obviously. But like I wanted to support you because I knew you needed my support, but I knew if I was said anything negative or mean, you wouldn't take it as like, oh, like what the hell, dude? Like Brandon doesn't believe in me, because like I know that even if I say anything about you, that you would believe in yourself, and you know that I would never go out of my way to steer you in the wrong direction, you know? So that's where I lean towards, like,
Mhm.
supporting each other, and even as if like I'm your biggest critic, but I'm also one of your biggest supporters because I believe in you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what everything that Brandon has said, and even you said, Tom, is that like, what's so great about our relationship is the high standard, is the straight shoot, where we know that we're literally just trying to bring out the best in everybody. And I can give you an example actually, well, because I don't have the background in like media production that Brandon did. So, well, our sort of constructive criticism uh, in our relationship took a different route. And I remember when you helped me, Tom, because when coming out of college, I had a really tough time landing a job out of college. It took me a very long time, and I went back and went back to our hometown and lived there for a bit, and really tried to figure some things out on what I wanted to do, like what got me excited. And I kept interviewing, I kept applying, and nothing stuck. And there were many times where I just wanted to give up because it was really getting frustrating. I just, no matter what I did, I could not land a job. And you were someone I talked to a lot about it, Tom, because you were in the space I wanted to be. It was the same type of job I wanted to get. So I would talk to you about tips, but also just like general things to stop me from giving up, right? And you were very supportive in that. And while it might have been a little harsh to hear that at the time I didn't have a job, I had a degree, I didn't have a job yet, and that sucked. I need to quote get my ass in gear, but I knew that you just wanted to see me be a better version of myself, and I was really appreciative of that. And I mean, I I'd like to think that the job I have right now was in part because of your support.
Yeah, not to interrupt you,
Thank
Tom,
you.
sorry, but like kind of to bounce off what Tanner was saying with, you supporting him. You like I remember when I first left where I was and I didn't know what to do, and I was just like working at the pizzeria, like, and then throughout all the years of like me transferring from college to college, like no matter what, you always had my back. You would, because I was always local, so if I ever need anything, the amount of times I would just like drive to your college just to hang out with you, because like I knew that it wasn't even support where like I wanted to talk to somebody. It was more support where like I just needed like a friend, and you were only, like my true friend that was around. So I would come see you, and that was like more support than like even if we just hung out in your basement or in your room in your townhouse, wherever it was. Like that support enough was just hanging out and was was like perfect, like more than I needed. And like I think you don't know how much like I needed just to like come see you from time to time, and that support. Even if you didn't think you were supporting me at all, but like I needed that in a way. And then even with, still to this day where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. You're like, you want me to go back to, you're like, you seem passionate about this, do this. And then you're not passionate about it. You see me, I'm passionate in other things, and you're like, go do that then if you're passionate about it. Like, no matter where I am, like, I know that you, you're the trust that I have in you to steer me in the right way is like more important, I think, than that you have, or that you're giving to me.
That means a lot. Thank you. Um, I think that all really comes down to the vulnerability that we have with each other. And vulnerability has levels, obviously. And we talked about even before how there's a certain level of emotional vulnerability that I don't think any of us have with each other. I think that's a vulnerability that I reserve for my parents. I'm trying to be more open and honest about it. And we'll get into it in a couple minutes. But just that baseline level of vulnerability where we feel comfortable with each other, talking about some of our insecurities, some of our worries in life about where we're going, because none of us, and I'm not just talking about the three of us, I'm talking about every single person out there, no one has any idea where they're going. And sometimes it just like you said, sometimes I come to you guys and I don't really want you to say anything. I just kind of want you to sit there and just kind of listen to me while I ramble for a little bit. Kind of like right now. I don't really need you to say anything. I just kind of need you to hear me and just talk about how much I care about you guys. And I think that's where a lot of I know, especially guys, kind of falter in their relationship is they don't really tell their guy friends how much they care about them. It's not cool. It's not considered manly to just kind of tell your really close friends that you really care about how much they're in your life. And it's on the more emotional side of vulnerability, where it's difficult to kind of let that armor down and you kind of let that mask come off your face because you have this perception that you've built up in our case for 15 years. That might be a rough estimate. You have this perception that you build up with your friends and who you are, and that changes over time. And if you start changing that perspective, you're concerned that maybe they go, "Whoa, where did that come from? Like, what are you doing?" And something along those lines. And it's difficult to kind of take that initial step. But I think on the emotional front, I think a good place to start with is, I come to you guys when I need you, but there's also a lot of times where I'm not like lonely, but I feel alone in my own head a lot. And when that happens, that's a time where I'll look at my phone and it'll be 3 weeks since the last time that we talked. And it's those kinds of moments where I just find myself in my own head a lot of the times. And it's not anything that you guys do. It's just me being me, where I'm so self-conscious about every single little thing that I'm going to say, every single thing that I'm going to do, that I kind of shut out the rest of the world for a little bit. And it leads to this feeling of isolation in my own head. And you guys are such a rock for me when I finally come out of that slump where I'm just saying to myself, I'm not alone. I have this really solid support system around me. And having you guys there for that reason is key for me to just keep functioning normally, and keep being the person that I want to be. And you guys constantly remind me of the person that I want to be, just exactly like you talked about. You guys are always going to be there for me. And if I drop the ball and I'm not there for you, that's not the kind of guy that I want to be. And I know vulnerability is really hard. And it's a topic that I want to ask you guys about, but if you guys don't want to talk about it, that's fine. What's your viewpoint on vulnerability as a whole? And do you think there's a line that you have to walk with your friends or someone that you really deem as close? I mean, we're pretty much as close as it gets. But where do you draw the line yourself between what you want to share and what you don't want to share? I guess that's a good place to start.
Like about a year ago, I was pretty sad because I remember to this day, it's sad, and like I don't feel like bad about it, but like when like Tom was away, I remember when Tanner was leaving to go back to Iowa, and I remember like dropping him off in his car that day and just being like, "Hey, dude, like I don't know when I'll see you, but I'll see you later." It's like, "Yeah, dude," and like I'm sure he knows. He never said anything about it, but like I started choking up when he was leaving, like when he was putting the digits in his garage code. Like we were talking the whole time, and like he could hear it in my voice that I was sad. But like you just gotta like, and I was vulnerable, but like I knew that he was gonna, I was gonna see him again. I was gonna talk to him more. Like I felt vulnerable, and then I remember driving my car late at night because nobody's around, and I have like very little friends, and I felt very vulnerable. But like, and that was the time where like I never really reached out to you guys, being like, "Yo, like I miss you guys. I'm really sad," but I would keep it to myself, and I was very vulnerable. And then it got to a point where I was just like, I think we hung out one day. It was like right when I got like my started coaching, and we were all talking on Discord one day, and we just like talked for like 5 hours about like literally nothing. Like a couple weeks later after that, and I was just like, like I'm sad, but I got these two guys here that like on a random Thursday night that they're willing to sit down with me and just talk about absolutely nothing for 3+ hours, and like I don't need to feel vulnerable because I got two friends who like would do anything for me and would sit and talk with me no matter what.
Yeah, I mean that your question is an interesting one, Tom, because this idea of vulnerability and kind of what you had said about where you draw the line. That's, to be fully transparent, I don't think that's something that I've figured out myself yet. It's just kind of like where when I'm talking to someone that I care about and I feel comfortable being vulnerable, it's kind of how does the conversation go? If we're talking about what happened in the in the Iowa game last night, I tend to keep things bottled up, but then there are some times where I do let loose. So I don't really have an answer for how I draw that line in the sand, because I don't even know myself, and that's a little bit scary in and of itself. But it's something that I know I want to work on and be better at, to like kind of have it for myself. But I know, in a time where I need to be vulnerable, I certainly know that, you two will be at the top of my list onto, who I need to reach out to if it gets to that point. But um, I guess my answer to that question, Tom, is I don't know. How about that?
If you did know, I would ask you for your book of secrets.
Yeah.
Honestly, um, I don't know either, and It's one of the major reasons why I wanted to start doing this podcasting format. Is there's a lot of questions that I have about myself, a lot of questions that I have about the world, and if this ever, I think Brandon, you alluded to it earlier. This really isn't about blowing up and having some super stardom for me. This is something that I do purely because I want to have these types of conversations with all my closest friends. And I've pretty much almost ticked off all of them. I have a couple more left, but it's the type of conversations that we have here that you don't necessarily think to sit down and have all the time. We talked about it before. We're really busy people, and I'm very fortunate that you guys agreed to an hour plus of just sitting here and having this type of conversation. That's why I want to do this, because I don't know where I draw the line on my own vulnerability. And starting here is a pretty good starting place for me, where I can be pretty open and honest. And if somebody chooses to watch and they feel the same kind of way and they feel inspired to do the same, well, that's just an added perk of it all. And I'm glad that you guys felt good enough to be open and honest, even though I surprised you with the topic for today. And I think Brandon's point is just so true. There's so many articles that I read in preparation for this where one of the biggest things people say about, oh, you're losing a friend when all you talk about is a whole lot of nothing, or you just reflect upon the past so much. And I get it. If you're doing that every single conversation, okay, maybe that's a sign that you guys aren't on the same wavelength. You're not really interested in what's going on in your current lives. Very fair. But every once in a while, there are times where I don't want to have this type of conversation. I just want to sit with you and I want to talk about a whole lot of nothing for 2 to 3 hours at a time, because I had had a terrible week and I just need to sit down and just have a really good time reflecting upon some of our best times together and just talking about stuff that is so inconsequential but is so funny and just so worth my time. That's a special moment. And again, that's another line that you have to walk, this balance of, I know that I should be focused on self-improvement, all of this, but I need to take a break. I'm human. I can't just be going at it all the time. And I'm glad that you guys are able to be that balance for me, where we can do both of those very easily. And on the subject of vulnerability, moving away is one of the hardest parts of all of this. And like you said, when Tanner left, it was not easy. And it's kind of that idea like, all right, he's gone, but he's going to come back. Right. 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 um, and it's been over a year, and I've been there once, and it's not something that I'm proud to say that I've only been there once. It's just how it's turned out in terms of, it's so expensive to fly to Iowa for some reason. Uh, and it's just not the easiest. And I hate it. I hate that that's a real consideration that I have to have. But I wish I was made of money sometimes, but I can't. And it's a terrible reason to say that I can't see my friend every now and then. But it's still something I haven't really gotten accustomed to, where I still text Brandon sometimes, and I still think to myself, oh, I gotta invite Tanner too, and I think to myself, that still hasn't gotten easy. I'm sure Brandon, you'd feel the same exact way. And I know you always hear about long distance relationships in terms of boyfriend, girlfriend, any type of relationship, like romantic, but the long distance friendship hits just as hard. It's hard to maintain a long distance friendship just like any other relationship. And I think it really just comes down to effort. And again, I'm in my own head a lot of the times, but I think it's one of those things where I don't put enough effort in.
I mean, I think it's something that we all, something we could all do better, right? I mean,
Yeah.
be maybe we could carve out like one time a week where we all, just hop on Discord and we can have these conversations, because, Tom, what you had said before, something I totally agree with. Like one of my favorite forms of just like dealing with stress, dealing with whatever's going on in life. I know, it might not always be the healthiest, but I just love taking a minute and doing what I love. And at this moment, it is a lot of the times, hopping in Discord with you guys, having that conversation about our script for an animated TV series that we're laughing about to this day,
or our thoughts.
or
What's wrong with Marvel, dude? Like, we literally outright, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, like what it was, what's going on in media. Sports are always obviously going to be a point of common interest, considering that's what kind of really catalyzed our friendship. But like, in talking about which celebrities Tom would and wouldn't date, like it's just like just random stuff that we talk about, and I love that, and I understand that there's definitely a time and a place to go to that distraction route, like you said, Tom, but it's some of my favorite times is when we're just able to turn that brain off and have so many conversations like that, and that ties back to even how you started when you were talking about you're losing a friend when you like talk about a whole lot of nothing. Like, I would totally disagree with that statement, because we talk about the notion of whenever we talk, it feels like you never left, feels like this, that we're just continuing a conversation. And that's what's so easy about this. Like, I feel like it would be the opposite, where like if you're having to catch up about what's going on in your life, and like, oh yeah, the classic small talk, how are the kids, how's the wife, like that type of stuff, like that's when it would get alarming for me. That's like, oh my God, we haven't talked in that long to where you don't know this, you don't know that. But when you're able to just get in there and talk about nothing, and you still know each other, know what's going on in each other's lives, I think that's a level to where we are at the moment, and where I want to continue to be, where we just know about each other, know what's going on in each other's lives, because that's how close and that's how often that we're talking, and we're supporting each other.
I think we do that. I think we do that more than you think, Tom, for sure. Like, the thing is, obviously it's a little difficult with Tanner, halfway across the country. But like, we haven't done it in a bit, but we have been pretty busy, to be fair. But we haven't like done our. We used to, like, every week we'd be like, yo, like, hey, what day are you guys available for like Discord this week? And be like, oh, not this week, next week. We would get together. And I think the good thing about that is, and since we all can't really hang out together, but there's plenty of times where, I'll talk to Tanner during the week, then I'll come see you like on the weekend because your weekends are off. I'm sure maybe you guys text every here and there, like and then, there's like everything comes full circle, or like it lines up perfectly where we can all talk together. And then, we reminisce on the good times all the time, because like those were the good times, but we're going to have plenty of more good times. But, I liked talking about the past, because the past was way more fun than it is now, because we were with each other the whole time. It's not like I'm reminiscing about the past, like, oh, I remember when I did this and like you did that. It's a time that we were all together, and that's like the thing. It's not like I'm like, oh, I remember when I was, by myself and I did something fun here. Most of the time it's, do you remember when we, we had that tournament? Remember when we won the championship game and Tom jumped into my arms, Remember when Tanner and I were in right field, center field, and we didn't give a shit about what was going on in the game. We were talking about what plans we're going to make afterwards. The whole thing about, people who reminisce on the good times, it's like, that's when it's boring. Like, that's the fun for me, is when we reminisce on the good times. Not to say we'll have plenty of good times in the future, for sure. Like, there's plenty of times. I was saying it to Tanner, I've been saying it to you, like, we need to like figure this out and get together, like when we're going to do, some trip for a week. So, because you guys are my friends and you guys are the ones that I want to do it with. I don't want to do it with anybody else. I want to be there. Like, I want to go on adventures with you guys.
Yeah.
I know it's hard, but like, I know that we'll make time for it,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was the best description. I couldn't have come up with a better one as to why it's important to reminisce on the past and not just forget it. It's those we moments that there are good. Wow, I'm gonna have to do that again. They are going to come again in the future, but until that point, why forget about the best of times, and why not forget what motivates us to be together in the first place? Those times that we've already spent together. You guys are really good speakers. You guys are really just putting everything into perspective. And I know it's in my nature to apologize for anything and everything. I always feel like I'm in the wrong all the time.
Well,
and you can
usually
ask my parents. You can ask any other friend that I have.
Yeah, we don't.
I know.
Yeah, we don't need to ask.
Yeah,
We've known you for 15 years now.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about me kind of being sad boy hours. It's time to just have a little appreciation for my friends and tell the audience how much they're awesome.
Aw.
I was thinking about kind of bringing it full circle with the initial description of what attracted me to wanting to be friends with you in the first place. I was trying to sum up the reason today why I try to continue to have you guys in my life. And it's not that you guys are very different in the description. It's not that I say one thing about you that's not true about the other. I was more just trying to be a little poetic in nature and kind of summarize it. And for Tanner, the way that I was thinking about it is you kind of said a similar type of thing in the beginning, but if I texted you tomorrow and I said, I need you here right now, no questions asked, you would have found a way to be there yesterday. And I can count on that 100% of the time. And with Brandon, if I had to sum it up, I would say if I told you that I needed $10 and you only had 5, you'd find a way to get 15 and you would never ask for the money back. And I don't know what it is about the two of you that you are the way that you are. Tanner, you're just so understanding and you just get it all the time. And that's in terms of everything. You just get it. Like you're the best at the little things. You're the best at the large things. You just understand. And Brandon, I don't know who or what made you into this incredibly giving person, but you are giving to a fault, in my opinion, where you give more than you should. And you are just always putting the needs of other people ahead of your own. And that is something that I aspire to be every single day. And I don't think I will ever achieve the level that you are. That's not really a question. It's just more that that's how I wanted to really wrap it up and just kind of bring it full circle. That's the reason why I keep you guys in my life. It's not anything else other than you inspire me to be the level that you guys are in certain aspects of your life. And you're the kind of guys that I want to keep around all the time.
Thanks, bud. I don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Like, that's
You don't have
sweet.
to say anything about it. No.
That that definitely means a lot. That I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for both of us when I say that we're able to be that for you, because that's all we want to do. We just, you said, you're our oldest friend, so like us three as a trio is about as close and about as goes as far back as people in their mid-20s can be. So I'm so happy that I can be that for you. And I mean, I know in terms of when I think about you, I truly just think of I think of two things. I think of someone who is just a great listener. You never, like, you had talked about it before, right? When you're celebrating an accomplishment of someone and not kind of turning that around and be like, oh, I remember when I did that. Like, if someone wants to get something off their chest to you, someone wants to talk to you, I'm not sure you're saying like 3 words. You're just like the best listener. And sometimes that's, a lot of times that's just something that I love, because I mean, as you can tell from this podcast, sometimes I ramble, and you're just letting me get that out as on a kind of a superficial level, but obviously on that serious level, just letting me get my thoughts out. That's incredibly valuable, and something that I am so thankful that you can be that for me. And the other thing I think of is just, I'm pretty sure I could tell you that I went and robbed a bank, and you would come back to me and be like, well, it's something you had to do, right? You're quite possibly the most understanding person, like,
Well, yeah,
I don't know
just
about that one.
just like no judgment.
Bit of extreme example.
Okay, maybe we cut that, but like you I don't know if I've ever met someone who's less judgmental than you, Tom.
I understand the sentiment.
Let's just put it that way.
I agree.
Let's just put it that way.
Besides the robbing the bank thing, I would not do that. But I
don't rob a
agree
bank
with what's that, dude. Like, I could talk to, like, no matter what I do or what I say, like, you will listen to it 100%. Like, you won't judge me whatsoever about anything. And not only that, but like I feel like whatever we say to you, you're always like it like means something to you. Like something important. Obviously we say random shit. It probably doesn't mean you'll care about it, but like you shouldn't care about it. But like I remember when I told you that I was going back to my job and I was telling you about it, like I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go back and like I just remember saying like it was like an accomplishment for me that like I got this job. And you were just I remember to this we were in your basement, it was me, you, and Siddharth was there. We were talking about our lives. I was like, yeah, I'm going back to so and so, and you're just like, I'm so proud of you. And that honestly like meant a lot. Just you just say like that you were proud of me was like that like made me feel so special. Like because like you're somebody who I like want for to be proud of me. Like I want like I put you to this high standard and you're at this high level for me where like if I say something and you're happy and you're proud of me, like that means the world to me. Because like you mean like your approval means a lot to me. And like same with Tanner. Like if I said something like I would want you guys to be like happy for me because that's just like the type of friends you are. Basically, no matter what I do, as long as it's not robbing banks, you will be
Okay.
you will be like proud of me. And that like me that's like one thing that like really sticks out for me. No matter what I do or what I say, like you won't judge me. And I guess that's why one reason why I keep you around too. You know, you're trying to find these reasons to keep us around. The big reason I keep you two around is like you guys make me so happy. Like it just straight up. Like no matter what, like we've never had like a bad day. You know, there's never been a time where it's like, oh, like, you know, I'm bored, I'm gonna go. Like it's always fun. We're always having a good time together. And that's why I like keeping you guys around too. Like it's just pure happiness when I'm with you too.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Agreed.
So I've also have it noted that if I do rob a bank,
Yeah.
don't ask Tom to back me up.
I
'cause
got you,
apparently
Tom.
he doesn't do that. So
Yeah.
thanks, man. I'm gonna go to Brandon. Tom, congratulations.
Yeah,
you just talked yourself out of
I'm
a
all
cut
things cheap,
of the
Sonic.
money. So
We're talking about drawing lines and like different areas of our lives, and I think I have to
Nope,
draw the line.
not for
at
me, Tan.
robbing a
Oh,
bank.
all right.
I got you.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, I guess some people are more supportive than others.
Tom, you're getting closer to the buddy line. I just have to, you know.
That's like
Oh
that.
my god. Just like that. Wow. Oh, man. I'm gonna have to go sit and cry for a little bit now. I just hit the buddy zone. Wow. What's that?
And that's a perfect example of how quickly we go from serious to
and that's
talking
how
about
quickly
nothing.
No, I'm
relationships-
serious.
Yeah, and
No,
that's
Nick.
Tan, Brandon, if you made it this far, this is me editing and filling the outro. This one really meant a lot to me, and I can't thank you enough for sitting down to do this with me. If you enjoyed the show, once again, please follow along and leave a rating. It's the best way to help grow the show. It allows me to have even more incredible conversations and have even more incredible guests on the show. Thank you all. It's always a pleasure to be able to do this for you. It's one of the best privileges that I have. Until next time.